A multi-agency response is underway to a plane crash. 2 people have perished. It happened just after 3 p.m.
Yeah, and we're confirming a lot of this information in real time as details are coming into our newsroom. The call came in just after 3 p.m. We're told that this is a Kamaka Air flight. At least 2 people on board are dead. There are road closures in the area at Uolena and Aolele streets as an emergency response is underway. The city has partially activated its emergency operations center as the response to this incident unfolds right now.
Yeah, and we heard some audio from the air traffic control tower. It appears that the pilots lost control. There was chaos in that tower as the plane crashed into a nearby building. This is near the Delta Air Cargo building. We're told it's a vacant building that you see firefighters here trying to break through. So we're not hearing of any other injuries or casualties at this time other than the 2 that we've confirmed through multiple sources. But there is fire, EMS, police on scene. We have multiple crews on scene as well, covering this from all different angles.
Yeah, we want to send it over to Eddie Dowd right now, who is live at Uolena Street. And in the last hour, we've seen so much video from witnesses, up close video of the building that was impacted. Eddie, what are you seeing right now?
Well, right now we are at one of the blockades that have been set up so that people cannot enter the area, but it is right behind me. This is where that plane crashed, at that building. We just saw the head of the Department of Transportation arrive on scene along with some top fire officials. We were the first media crew to arrive on scene, and what we saw was a large scene of debris. We saw a giant hole in the top of that building, abandoned building, and then we also saw a wing in a ditch not too far by, along with what appeared to be a landing gear in the parking lot where that hole in the building was. And I was talking with emergency officials, and they told me that, you know, although they're still trying to piece together what happened, it's possible that the plane hit the building, and that's why the debris broke apart in the area. Now, they also were going through the rubble, and, you know, some of the details, again, we are not going to share because it is a very difficult site to process, but we can confirm that there were 2 fatalities. So, like I said, we continue to wait for that briefing from Honolulu EMS. We will also be talking with the head of the Department of Transportation. We are just waiting for him to join us, and we'll have team coverage throughout the day. We'll send it back to you.
Thank you very much, Eddie. And if you've been following our breaking news coverage in the last hour and a half, we have confirmed this is a Kamaka Air cargo flight, flight number 689. Moments ago, we heard the chilling audio from the air traffic controllers, the transmission from the pilot to the controllers in the tower, hearing what was unfolding. It appears what happened was that this aircraft had taken off the runway. Shortly after, things started to go wrong. It started veering right, and it went into the building. That entire area, that entire scene right now is a disaster zone as emergency crews respond.
Yeah, and we heard from multiple witnesses. They said they saw the plane flying low, close to buildings. Then they heard a loud boom. Many thought it was a car accident. And then that big billowing black smoke, those large flames, that orange fireball happening there near the Delta Cargo Air building. We want to go live now to our Dylan Ancheta, who has been on the scene since this all began as well. Dylan, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Ashley, thank you so much. We are located along Uolena Street, and we've been here since around 3:30, so since the last hour. And over that last hour, fire crews have really worked to clear this scene. Earlier when we got on here, we were witnessing as the firefighters were trying to make entry into that door on the 2nd floor. We also saw them accessing the roof via the ladder, but the activity from the fire department has really died down or cleared out over the last hour. And now, if you can see on the other side of the parking lot, it looks like where the HFD officials and the ambulance officials are starting to meet. And I also want to note too that because of this crash, despite this crash I should say, planes are still taking off on the main runways at Daniel K. Inouye. We did see a Southwest aircraft taking off as normal, along with the fighter jets that have been taking off. Those are the very loud ones that many people hear all across the island. So right now it doesn't seem that there are any major impacts to the operations at Daniel K. Inouye, but we are working to confirm that as well. And I also wanted to mention, too, that the emotion of this is starting to set in. A few moments ago, two wahine, two ladies came on scene. They were emotional, they were distraught. It's unclear if they are family members, but out of respect at this time, we are keeping our distance from them. They are speaking with the state sheriffs just off to the side here, so we will wait to see if they are willing to speak with us. But we did speak with some witnesses as soon as we got onto the scene. Here's some of what they said.
I was working and all of a sudden had a loud one big boom, and I looked out and there was just some freaking clouds of smoke, and my coworkers told me a plane crashed right next to our building.
Now, we also have been in touch with EMS officials, and they said they are ideally trying to get an update for us around the 5 o'clock hour. We did try to encourage them to say if they could do that a bit earlier, but right now they are still gathering details themselves. So we will, when that happens, we will bring it to you live on air and online. On Uolena Street, Dylan and Chatsa, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you very much, Dylan. Yes, we are awaiting word from emergency officials right now who are on scene. As we said earlier, the city has partially activated its emergency operations center as we see how this scene really is unfolding right now. And as Dylan had mentioned, the emotion of this is setting in as witnesses are arriving on scene, possibly relatives of those involved. Road closures are still in effect in a very large area surrounding the airport. For more on that, let's send it over to Jonathan Masaki.
Well, Mark and Ash, we've been in touch with the DOT and HPD regarding those closures. So we're going to zoom in on our map to kind of show you the greater area of the airport, which remains closed as we speak. So the roads that we know that are closed right now are Uolena, Ohuhia, Paia, and Aolele, Lagoon, and Pu'uloa. You see the two icons right there. Those are the specific areas that remain closed as we speak. That's been in effect for about an hour now. I want to show you some cameras, though, to give you an idea. The underneath part, it does still flow. This is the Nimitz Highway area. So if you're still on Nimitz, you're able to access where you need to. You're not allowed, though, to get into those inner roads that get closer to the airport. As they move you to the airport viaduct right now, also the flow going into the airport if you want to catch a flight or if you're picking someone up in the upper deck, it's still moving pretty clear. We'll keep you updated. Obviously, things will change as the afternoon progresses, but that's the latest from the First Alert Traffic Desk. Now going to Drew Davis with First Alert Weather.
Hey, thanks, Jonathan. We just want to remind everybody that meteorology and aviation are connected. We've been monitoring the environment of our winds outside across the island chain very closely because it actually deals with the flight path, especially when we have light and variable winds out there like we're seeing right now. Over on Honolulu today in town, south winds around 8 miles per hour, but you can see over the eastern half of the state a little bit breezier. And I want to show you what exactly happens when we see light and variable winds like this. When we see a typical trade wind day, sometimes they're more east-northeasterly coming in along the Ko'olau. The flight path is actually planes taking off from the other side of the runway, moving towards Diamond Head, and then they take a sharp right turn. But when we're seeing lighter winds, variable winds like we have today, sometimes the flight path is actually flipped. When we're seeing strong Kona winds over 10 to 15 miles per hour out of the south, the flight path is flipped, coming in from the windward part of the island towards the Ewa part of the island. But we actually just got confirmation from one of the pilots that they did not flip the path today. The flight paths remained normal today, so we've been monitoring to see if we're actually seeing these lighter winds impacting what could have impacted the flight and the crash today. Taking a look at your windcast out there over the next several hours. Again, we are going to be seeing these light and variable winds throughout the rest of today. You could see in that video of the smoke, the fire, the billowing smoke. The smoke was going directly upwards. It wasn't moving off to the east, to the west, to the south. We had light enough winds to where you could see that column of smoke rise high up into the atmosphere. And again, light and variable winds. We've been giving you the first alert all week long that we are going to see this throughout the first half of this week and really start to see more northerly winds by the time we get to this upcoming Thursday. And again, we really haven't seen very many winds out there today. When we see maximum wind gusts anywhere above 20 miles per hour, the only area across the entire island chain has been Hilo with a 22 mile per hour wind gust. Again, trade winds, we've got towards the town part of the island. Kona winds, the flight path switched, but that did not happen today. We got confirmation from a pilot saying the flight paths didn't switch. That's it from the First Alert Weather Center. We're going to be tracking this very closely throughout the rest of today.
Thank you so much, Drew. And yes, stick with us. We are not done with this breaking news. We are covering it from all angles. We are still waiting to hear from officials about what happened, what they know. So stay with us on air and online for our continuing coverage.
In our other top story, political outcry tonight against a new landfill outside of Wahiawa, with the head of the Board of Water Supply calling it the next Red Hill.
But the mayor and his administration insist the risk to the environment is very low. Mahealani Richardson joins us with the latest. Mahel.
Well, Ash and Mark, observers say it's an awkward political situation. The head of the Board of Water Supply, who won praise for protecting water, is publicly disagreeing with the mayor and his administration.
I think we've learned from the situation at Red Hill, and I almost think of this as like Red Hill number 2 that we're dealing with.
The city selected site for a new landfill is outside Wahiawa in a Dole pineapple field. But Board of Water Supply Chief Engineer and Manager Ernie Lau says he's against it because it would be 800 feet above Oahu's aquifer. He called it a potential risk to drinking water and future generations. Just like the Navy's fuel leaks that sickened thousands of people in 2021.
It's a no-go, and I call it Red Hill number 2 because there are some parallels.
Is the new landfill site Red Hill number 2?
No, I don't think so. You know, Red Hill was a preventable disaster. A landfill is very different from an underground storage tank, and we would build it through all the current regulations and standards, which is designed to prevent leakage, and then we would also, of course, maintain it, and that's actually required by law. The long-term risk seems to be, is very minimal.
The city says required maintenance is 30 years. Currently, Act 73 bans landfills within a half-mile buffer zone from schools, residences, and hospitals. It also can't be in a conservation zone.
If there is no landfill above the aquifer, would you support amending Act 73?
I'll never amend it as long as I'm in this square building. I really feel that this is a political deployment to try to pressure the legislation in this year's legislation to try to modify Act 73.
Is the administration's intention to get Act 73 amended?
No, that's not our intention. Our intention is to move forward with this site.
So you can say people aren't going to be happy. We knew that from the get-go. You tell me where on the island anybody would have been happy.
The Waimanalo Gulch landfill in Nanakuli is scheduled to close in 2028. The city says it has capacity until 2035.
Now, the landfill issue will go before the Wahiawa Neighborhood Board in January and then the North Shore Neighborhood Board in March. Mahealani Richardson, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you, Mahea. A much-needed boost of affordable housing units is now open in Kapolei.
Hundreds of families will live in the new complex, complete with its own early learning center. Dylan Ancheta, who filed this report earlier in the day, takes us to Parkway Village.
Tuesday's grand opening marked a new chapter for the 401 affordable units here at Parkway Village, Kapolei. They're now ready for families to move in. The opening of the complex was complete with a Hawaiian blessing and untying of a mailele. It features units ranging from studios all the way up to 4 bedrooms and is intended for residents making 30 to 60% of the area median income. For a family of 4, that breaks down to a range of just over $41,000 to more than $83,000 per year. With state emergency housing rules in place and Hawaii's critical need for affordable units, the project moved swiftly as the developer broke ground just 15 months ago.
While there were challenges, I mean, fundamentally, we broke ground 15 months ago, and we have residents moving in the coming weeks, just 15 months later, which is an incredible, that is lightning speed for a housing development.
As long as we don't tinker with conservation land, I think people have been in general very supportive. So we're trying to be thoughtful about the environment. But we're most focused on local families and affordability.
The community is also home to Hawaii's first privately developed public charter preschool, giving families ease of access to tuition-free early learning resources.
Kamehameha Schools stepped in to help develop it along with PACT, and it will serve 80 keiki across 4 classrooms. In the second phase, capacity for more than 40 students will be added at 2 preschool classes run by Keikio Ka'aina.
The preschool keiki who will be exploring and learning today will one day be our leaders sitting in these seats.
Located on city land, the $199 million project was funded through a public-private partnership and supported by the low-income housing tax credit. It also focuses on sustainability with PV battery systems, low-energy appliances, and a freight and hydroponic farm in the community garden. Rent for a studio unit starts around $640 and goes up to just over $2,200 for a 4-bedroom. Phase 2 of the project is already underway and set to open in 2025. Dylan Ancheta, Hawaii News Now.
Thank you very much, Dylan. Lahaina Town is a step closer to being designated a National Heritage Area. The Senate unanimously passed the Lahaina National Heritage Study Act this morning that begins the process to study the feasibility of a special designation for the town. Senator Mazie Hirono and Representatives Jill Tokuda and Ed Case worked on the bill. In a statement, Senator Hirono said the historic, natural, and cultural resources found in Lahaina tell a nationally significant story, and this bill will help ensure that story can continue to be told and appreciated for generations to come.
Meanwhile, Senator Tammy Duckworth was raised on Oahu, voiced her criticism today of Tulsi Gabbard's nomination for Director of National Intelligence. Gabbard's critics say she does not have deep experience in the field, and Duckworth added that Gabbard is compromised.
I have deep concerns about the fact that she might be compromised. I mean, it was Russian-controlled media that called her a Russian asset. I also think she's not qualified for the position. She's not really done anything in the intelligence world, so I don't know that that's the right person to run our nation's intelligence agencies.
Other prominent Democrats on Capitol Hill have shared similar concerns over her qualifications for the position. Now to New York, where today the district attorney indicted Luigi Mangione for the murder of United Healthcare's CEO.
The 26-year-old, whose last known address was here in Honolulu, was hit with 11 counts, including murder as a crime of terrorism. Antonia Hilton has the story.
This afternoon, the Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, along with the NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, announced 11 total counts in the indictment in Luigi Mangione's case.
With 1 count of murder in the first degree and 2 counts of murder in the second degree, including 1 count of murder in the second degree as an act of terrorism.
We have been expecting this indictment for days now. Already he had been charged with second-degree murder in New York, and the speculation had been that this would escalate to first degree. What we also heard the DA spell out is that there is a terrorism component to this case, a cultural story around this case now, that they are going to be painting a picture of Luigi Mangione's actions in court and essentially telling the story of how he not only planned the murder of this healthcare CEO, but also committed this murder, they allege, with the goal of creating a cultural movement of sorts around it, the potential threats to other corporate CEOs, people potentially trying to do copycat crimes, and even reshaping the conversation around American healthcare policy, all of which we have seen evidence of in the last several days, which has made authorities in New York and around the country incredibly concerned.
Let me say this plainly. There is no heroism in what Mangione did. This was a senseless act of violence. It was a cold and calculated crime that stole a life.
As of now, the story is still centered here in Pennsylvania because Luigi Mangione remains behind bars here. In fact, he has even been receiving mail and numerous entries to his commissary account from people around the country here. But a source familiar told NBC News that he plans to waive extradition. That means that he's going to no longer fight this extradition process. And if that happens, the timeline of these hearings that are set for Thursday morning could change. We could very quickly see authorities come and take Mangione and transport him to New York. Back to you.
Now, First Alert Weather with Drew Davis.
And aloha, everyone. Let's take a look at our First Alert Weather headlines. Of course, we've been tracking the light winds, especially regarding the crash earlier today, but we also have extra large surf in the forecast. We just got in from the National Weather Service that high surf warnings are up for the north and west facing shores of Kauai, Oahu, Molokai, and the north facing shores of Maui. These are for north and west facing shores between 6 a.m. on Wednesday until 6 p.m. on Thursday. Of course, we've been giving you the first alert all week long that we're tracking large surf out there, and I would not be surprised if these are extended further in time. Just taking a look at our surf timeline, you can see high surf warning 6 a.m. Wednesday to 6 p.m. Thursday. Just take a look at the surf we're expecting. Another swell is expected on Sunday. We'll see that surf peak on Friday, a little bit of a dip on Saturday, and then another large high surf warning swell that is going to arrive Sunday into Monday of this upcoming week. Giving you a quick look at the numbers. North and west facing shores for tomorrow morning on Oahu, 18 to 22 feet. West facing shores 12 to 16. South facing shores around 0 to 2, very small out there. And giving you an island by island outlook. Kauai north facing shores on Wednesday afternoon, 20 to 25 feet, similar on Oahu and Molokai. And here's a quick look at your First Alert 7-day forecast. Beautiful weather expected over the next couple of days, and that large surf. Jonathan, how's it looking out there on the roads?
Well, I want to remind our motorists and drivers into the airport area, several roads remain closed because of that crash. It's still a very active investigation. So the map will give you a good idea as to where is affected right now. You see the two icons up. According to HPD and DOT, the roads are closed near the airport. They include Ualena, Ohuhia, Paea, Aolele, Lagoon, and Pu'uloa Drive. We'll keep you updated on the latest conditions there as it becomes available to us. Mark and Ash, back to you.
Thank you, Jonathan. And our coverage of the deadly airplane crash at Honolulu's airport continues. 2 people are dead after a Kamaka Air Cargo flight 689 went down just after 3 p.m. near the east end of the airport near Ualena and Aolele streets. The pilot telling air traffic controllers that they were, quote, out of control. The aircraft apparently crashing into a building, causing a fire and multiple road closures at this time.
And as you see in this video right now, HFD is currently at what appears to be a vacant building that was impacted as the plane was going down. Fortunately, it does not appear anyone was inside, but nearby witnesses have described the incident, hearing a sudden loud boom and then within seconds seeing the flames and smoke. The city has partially activated its emergency operations center, and at the top of the hour there will be a news conference to discuss what unfolded. We're expected to hear from Emergency Services Chief Dr. Jim Ireland, HFD Chief Kalani Howell, and Ed Sniffen of the Department of Transportation. Again, this is an active investigation right now. We are tracking this breaking news of the deadly plane crash near Honolulu's International Airport.
Stay with us on air and online.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more HNN content. Sponsored by Central Oahu Event Center and Mango Street Grill.